Bob Lee. We'll spend 30 minutes surveying the 21 teams in the NASL with plenty of highlights, our goal of the week and player of the week, and see exactly how we stack up as we get down towards playoff time, where in the Eastern Division, the Cosmos have assured themselves of another Eastern Division title. They split 2 matches this past week. The Cosmos hoping to be a bye team in the first round, get that day of rest in the playoffs. Cosmos with a split this past week. The Montreal Manic splitting 2 matches. Washington Diplomats also with a split. Both Montreal and Washington have played 27 matches, so you get a rather fair assessment of where they stand. The Toronto Blizzard with a couple of losses dropping out of the playoff picture. As we said, the Cosmos have clinched that berth and that Eastern Division title, but the Manic of Montreal really showing its mettle as we get down towards playoff time. A big victory over the Whitecaps Saturday at Montreal's Olympic Stadium in a nationally televised game. A big game for Eddie Fermani, who has twice won the soccer ball, each time with a different side. First half, Gordon Hill with a beautiful chip in front here after Usean gets it loose. Hill sends it in front to Alan Willie for the head ball past Barry Siddle, and the Manic leading the Whitecaps 1-0. That came early in the match. Now in the second half, Vancouver coming back. Ray Hankin here with the header, and Bob Rigby with a great diving save, and you've got to believe at this point Eddie Fermani and his Manic believe they have the spirit on this Saturday in Montreal. Still, Manic leading at 1-0. David Thomas here with a cross to Ray Hankin with the header. Peter Beardsley moves in for the score right past Rigby, who was down. And in the 68th minute, we are tied at 1 apiece. But nonetheless, after that tally by the Caps, the Manic come back. Thompson, Usean over to Gordon Hill. Watch Hill moving in across the 35. A long-distance volley past Siddle. And the Manic with an upset victory over the Vancouver Whitecaps, who had a rather rough Eastern swing. That final, as we see, 2-1. Cosmos, defending Soccer Bowl champs, had a date last Wednesday in New Jersey at the Giant Stadium against the Portland Timbers. A big game for Giorgio Chinaglia, who scored his 600th career goal in professional soccer. It came in the first half, in the 15th minute of playoff, a good setup. Ricky Davis gets it to Sanino. Sanino down the left side to Chinaglia in front, and the 600th goal professionally of a 17-year career. Bogicevic adding a tally, and in that game, the Cosmos 2-0 over Portland. A couple of good teams with losing streaks meeting head-to-head the other evening in the nation's capital, the Diplomats and the Blizzard. Dips on a 3-match losing streak. First half in this match with no score at the 29-14 mark. Washington with a free kick. Where do you put it? That's the discussion. Malcolm Waldron says, hey, mates, let's put it right through the wall. Watch Waldron right through the wall. And the Dips lead it 1-0 in front of 5,000 at RFK Stadium. That lead holds up to the second half of the 66-minute mark with a 1-0 Washington lead. David Bradford Hill, a good pass to David McGill, runs right through Gianpolo Bonaperti, beating the goalie Tony Chersky. 2-0 at that point, and the Dips go on for the 2-0 victory, a game in which the Washington goalkeeper Jim Brown recorded only 1 save. The Blizzard losing 8 straight at that point, their second 8-match losing streak of the season. They have now the worst record in the North American Soccer League. Also this past week, we showed you the Manic defeating Vancouver. The Manic with a 3-2 victory over Tampa Bay. And in that game, Towers, Hill, and Parkinson with tallies. And as we said, the Cosmos 2-0 over Portland. While in the Central Division of the NASL, Chicago staying firmly in control of things. They have established themselves. They have clinched a playoff berth. Minnesota and Tulsa fighting it out. And Chicago with a split this past week. Minnesota splitting. Tulsa with a split. Dallas with a victory. Minnesota with a match in hand on Tulsa. And the Kicks did what many people have done quite recently. They have really bottled up the Fort Lauderdale offense. They took the Strikers on last Wednesday evening in Fort Lauderdale at Lockhart Stadium, and Minnesota with a 4-1 victory. First half, after Chico Hamilton scored to make it 1-0, Chico's corner kick past Van Beveren, and Jan can get it. Alan Merrick knocks it in off the side of his leg. Kicks leading at 2-0. Both those match goals off of corner kicks. Second half action following those first half tallies for Minnesota. Ray Hudson here gets things moving, finds the West German star Gerard Mueller onside, moves in with the left foot past Tino Lettieri, so it's a 2-1 match as the Strikers get into it. 13,000 on hand, including the chicken, looking a bit like Elvis Costello perhaps. Kicks, though, leading it. Stevie Highway with a pass here. drills it past Van Beveren. 3-1 kicks at this point. Now, Fort Lauderdale, though, a never-say-die side. Hudson centering to Messback here. And watch Messback in front with the attempt. Off the centering, Lettieri puts it right over the top with the fist. Still a 3-1 Minnesota lead. 4 minutes remaining in the contest following that exceptional save. Ron Butcher takes the Caps from the highway, beats Van Beveren. A 4-1 Minnesota victory at that point. The Strikers, their third consecutive loss. Well, we told you about the Vancouver Whitecaps running into some rough sledding on that slide eastward as they came out of British Columbia. Before they got to Quebec, they had to go to Tulsa at Skelly Stadium to take on the Roughnecks. Thursday evening in Oklahoma, a big match for the Roughnecks. Scoreless here. Billy Caskey with the ball down the right side, moves it in, looking for Duncan McKenzie, slides it to Duncan, and he beats Barry Siddle. 1-0 Tulsa in the 12th minute. Penalty kick called as Shearer takes down Danifard. And Victor Moreland will get the call here on the penalty kick as Shearer is the culprit tripping Iraj Danifard. Victor Moreland beating Barry Siddle. 2-0 Tulsa at this point. Second half action, 4 minutes into the second half. Dean Neal here off the throw-in gets the ball and just catches Siddle napping. Moves in across the 35. Siddle guesses the incorrect way. 3-0 Tulsa at this point. But the Caps try for a comeback at the 69-23 mark. Hankin to Peter Beardsley. Beating Delroy Allen here. Beardsley in front, controls it. Good left foot just inside the post. A 3-1 tally. And 2 minutes later, Ray Hankin slides one past Delroy Allen as the Whitecaps struggle to get back into this game. Hankin takes the feed inside, controls it from a kneeling position. A 3-2 final, though, as the Caps rally but can't put the equalizer across, so a 3-2 Tulsa victory. Other results this past week in the Central Division of the North American Soccer League. Chicago defeating Edmonton by a count of 3-2 as Arno Steffenhagen had a couple of goals. The winner coming in the 85th minute. Chicago with their fourth consecutive victory at that point. And Dallas, believe it or not, the Tornado, 3-1 over Washington. Just a moment, we're going south and west, young man, and the Chiefs, the Rowdies, and the Soccer City Limits, and coming away with the victory. Atlanta, 2 victories this past week. Tampa Bay with a couple of wins, moving up into second place temporarily in the battle for an automatic playoff position. Fort Lauderdale with a couple of losses. Now, the Strikers will probably reassume second place, and by the way, Atlanta even has a couple of matches in hand on the Rowdies. Jacksonville, look at that, 14-13, over 500, yet they, with a victory this past week, still are in the basement. It is an incredible division, you have to think, where that winning team in the last place has an over 500 mark. The Rowdies may not last too long in second place, but they got there with a victory Saturday over Los Angeles in Tampa Stadium. Scoreless now in the second half, 47th minute. Buffalo Bill Faria takes the pass from Ruben Romano, lifts it over Kevin Keelan, and the Aztecs take a 1-0 lead. So Faria gets things moving and jubilates a la Billy White Shoes Johnson, perhaps. Rowdies, though, tie 11 minutes later. A service from Rowe to Refik Kozic, and he beats Chris Turner, and we're tied in the 57th minute, 1 apiece. But Turner had an exceptional evening. Watch this assault here. Frank Worthington drives down the shot, save here, and the rebound stopped again by Turner. Turner very much equal to it. Now the Rowdies attacking once again. Luis Fernando pops this header up above Chris Turner. Watch as Mike McClanahan hits it away with his hands. That is a no-no. That is a handball. They just simply allowed the goal. The goal was allowed, a 2-1 victory for the Rowdies. Fernando, by the way, was red carded just a few moments after that goal. The Rowdies did move up to second place in the standings. Jacksonville, though, staying alive in the cellar with a very impressive victory over the Cosmos in New Jersey. Scoreless in this match as we pick it up in the 34th minute of play. The Cosmos with the ball. Quinalia will get into the action here. The exchange comes across the 35-yard line. Quinalia gives it back. There's Chico Borja, sends it across to Vanderelst. Back to Quinalia, 1, 2, 3 touches, and he puts it through with the left foot. The 28th goal of the year for Giorgio. 1-0 Cosmos. Then in the 40th minute of play, after that exceptional goal, watch here, Tony Brown gives it over to Cantillo for Jacksonville. Works the give-and-go Cantillo with Eduardo Marasco. Marasco in front with the left foot beats Bergenmeyer, a perfectly placed volley in front of 37,000 at Giant Stadium. A 1-all tie. Jacksonville, by the way, holds the series edge 5-3 over the Cosmos over the last 4 years. Not many teams can say that. We are tied 1-all in the 80th minute of play following the good goal by Marasco. Team in again. Tony Brown to Cantillo. He crosses it to Georges Berriot. Beautiful header off the artificial turf. On grass, it might have died. On the artificial surface, it's a goal. 2-1, the team end with the victory at Giant Stadium. Now, we spoke about the Atlanta Chiefs moving a game outside Fulton County Stadium. They took it to DeKalb County and to Decatur, Georgia, where the youth soccer program does so very well. And indeed, the Strikers came into town against Atlanta. And in this game, the Chiefs moving that game had a record crowd of over 14,000 on hand. Chiefs leading at 1-0. Paul Child here with the goal in the first half. Ball comes over to Brian Kidd, beating Jan Van Beveren right there with the left foot, about 12 yards in front. And the Chiefs take a 2-0 lead in front of 14,400. Alderson with the corner kick comes to Dan Dregge, the stopper. He makes it a 3-1 Chiefs lead at the 51-20 mark. Strikers have the ball in the 60th minute. The ball comes to Gerd Mueller. Over to Bob Boleisto, unmarked, runs onto it for the tally. So the Chiefs now only have a 3-2 lead as the Strikers get back. They tie it 12 minutes later. Bronco Segota, watch this effort. Bronco outside. The former Rochester Lancer takes it inside the box. With the left foot, the grass cutter ties it at 3 apiece. In the shootout, nobody could score in the shootout. The only match goal in the shootout is scored by Tony Whalen, who chips it past Van Beveren. Brad Tutt for Atlanta made one save. The other 4 attempts went wide. So in the shootout, the Chiefs 4-3 over Fort Lauderdale. And also this past week, Atlanta with a 3-0 victory over the Toronto Blizzard. Brian Alderson with a couple of goals and Paul Child with 1. San Diego, we spoke of last week, had a match in hand in the Western Division. They used it to advantage this past week, and right now with 2 victories have the firm lead in the Western Division over Los Angeles. And San Diego still looking very good. Los Angeles 0-1. California with a split. San Jose with a loss. Sockers needed another shootout, though, to stay on top of the Western Division. They have 4 victories this year in the shootouts, ties for the league lead in that category. And the Sockers were in the Kingdom this past Wednesday against, of course, the Seattle Sounders. Minute into the game, first half, corner kick for Seattle. Alan Hudson over to Jeff Bourne. Just slices it in very neatly, and the Sounders lead at 1-0. First half, 4 minutes later, the next tally is the Sounders' David Nish fouls Lorenz Hilkes right there in the box. Sockers get a penalty kick. So Seattle goalkeeper Paul Hammond takes on Stojanovic. Hammond against Stojanovic. Stojanovic goes to the right-hand side. Goalie guesses incorrectly. 40th minute, we're tied. Still tied in the 79th minute. Julie V passing to Lorenzo Hilkes in front. The San Diego Star with the tally. Sockers on top 2-1. However, Seattle got a penalty kick. Martin Donnelly with a handball. Wolfmar Gross in the nets. Kevin Bond guesses again correctly. The easy goal. We're tied at 2-2 after a scoreless overtime. We go to a shootout. We are tied at the shootout 2-2. And Nico Roman of San Diego off the post makes it 3-2. Last-ditch effort for Seattle. Mark Peterson goes wide, so San Diego in the shootout. A 3-2 victory over Seattle. Not an easy feat to accomplish in the Kingdom. This past week, let's take a look at some of the other results from around the league in the Western Division. As we said, San Diego 3. Both their matches this past week in the Northwest Division play, but still no imminent danger of the Whitecaps dropping out of first place in the standings. Certainly the Vancouver Whitecaps, a co-favorite, you would have to think, along with Chicago to challenge the Cosmos for a Soccer Bowl championship this year. And Vancouver has a match in hand on the second-place Calgary Boomers, who split 2 matches this past week. Seattle also splitting. Seattle also has a match in hand on the Boomers, so Calgary may not be long for that second place, but certainly they have changed things around the Boomers this year in the latter part of the season. Edmonton with a victory and Portland with a split. And Edmonton still could be a wild card factor. Now, the Boomers may have to fight off the Sounders for that wild card and second place fight in the Northwest Division. Seattle picked up 4 points Saturday at home against the Tulsa Roughnecks. First half and no score. Sounders have the ball. Steve Buttle here will send it into the box. Mark Peterson looking for this pass. There's Buttle and there's Peterson. Watch Victor Moreland of Tulsa called for the handball. Flicks his hand, so we have a penalty kick called at the 29-22 mark. Who do you ask but Bond? Kevin Bond, right past Delroy Allen. A league record number 9 in the season. 9 successive penalty kicks for Kevin Bond. That's the only goal of the match. Seattle 1-0 over Tulsa. Now, the Timbers, we showed you earlier, they were losing to the Cosmos earlier in our program. They needed the shootout at Spartan Stadium Saturday. Picked up just 5 points for their effort against San Jose. Second half, no score. Quakes have the ball. San Jose. Georgie Best here gets into the act and heads it into Slavko Listenar, who gets it over to Crisatelli. Listenar and Crisatelli. And John Pratt fouls in. We have the Timber penalty kick called. So in the 66th minute, George Best is called upon for the penalty. Right past Dragan Radovic. Quakes leading it 1-0. Portland tied it up, though. We go to the shootout following a scoreless overtime. George Best with a penalty kick within the shootout goes wide. So it's still 2-0. Portland leading in the shootout. Portland can win with a shot here. Stuart Lee to take it against the goalie, Bob Stedler. Lee for Portland moves in, has 5 seconds to get it away, and puts it over the top. So in the shootout, the Portland Timbers 2-1 over the San Jose Earthquakes. That was at Spartan Stadium. Also this past week, Edmonton a 2-0 victory over Minnesota, and Chicago losing to Calgary 4-2. Brett Hall with an own goal. Gerd Zimmerman with the insurance tally. Jurgen Christensen had a couple of assists for the Boomers. Wild card situation is a jumbled one. Tampa Bay is now in second in the South, so they would automatically qualify with the season to end today. Tulsa Almatic is selected by the Professional Soccer Reporters Association, and certainly the 27-year-old Englishman who has experience in '75 with the Sting, went back to his home country, played with Manchester United, Derby County, and Queen's Park Ranger. He had a goal in each one of the 2 Montreal victories this past week. Gordon Hill of the Montreal Matic, a team that has certainly been a story in the NASL over the last month, our player of the week, Gordon Hill, this week in the North American Soccer League. Next up here on NASL Weekly, the league leaders. Soccer League scored 2 goals and an assist this past week. Giorgio Quinalia, Brian Kidd, Mike Stojanovic, each with a 2-goal, 1-assist week. Teofilo Cubillas of the Strikers with an assist. Franz Gerber of Calgary, a couple of goals. Gordon Hill, 2 goals and an assist. 2 goals for Granita of Chicago. Cabañas of the Cosmos, no scores. And Duncan McKenzie of the Roughnecks, a goal and an assist. Well, we do have a new top keeper. New goalkeeper at the top of the heap in the North American Soccer League. American Arnie Mauser of Jacksonville moves up from 3rd, gave up 1 goal in his 1 match. Van Beveren of Fort Lauderdale gave up 3 goals in his 2 matches. The Strikers have been struggling. Barry Siddle of Vancouver shelled for 5 goals in the 2 losses. Bilecki of Tulsa did not appear this past week. Birkenmeyer of the Cosmos recording a shutout. Volkmar Gross of San Diego. Graham Tudd, who had a shutout. Keith McRae. Bob Rigby of the red-hot Montreal Matic. Jim Brown of the Washington Diplomats with a shutout. The rest of our top goalkeepers this past week in the North American Soccer League. Time now to tell you about our nominee for Goal of the Year, our Goal of the Week here on NASL Weekly. And as always, it is brought to you by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. We take you to Giant Stadium Sunday, August the 3rd, the Budweiser Goal of the Week. Cosmos lost to Jacksonville, but watch the effort by Quinalia. Chico Borja sent it to Francois Van der Elst, back to Quinalia. 1, 2, and the 3rd touch out of the air with the left foot past Arnie Mauser, our Goal of the Week. Watch it once again. Earlier this week, Quinalia had career goal number 600 in that 17-year career with Swansea and Lazio on the Italian national side. Just another Quinalia piece of art, bouncing it off the turf, but controlling it very nimbly in midair. About 4 or 5 consecutive touches by the Cosmos to set up our Goal of the Week, and congratulations to Giorgio Quinalia. We'll have a look at the schedule in the NASL after this word from the good people at Budweiser. The scoring situation in the NASL as far as how many points you can achieve in a game, and certainly to the casual fan who may not have learned it, if you're following your favorite team, this is the time to realize you can get a maximum of 9 points for each game in the NASL. A 6-point victory is won in regulation. Bonus points accruing for each goal up to 3 whether you win or lose. 4 points for a victory in overtime or a shootout. That's important as we take a look ahead on the schedule here in the NASL Weekly and tell you that Chicago is visiting Washington this Wednesday. Sting chasing the Cosmos in an attempt to be the #1 point team. Cosmos, though, trying to chip down on that magic number of 28. They will be at Minnesota. Dallas is visiting Vancouver. Now, Dallas has won some matches recently, and Vancouver on a 2-match losing streak. Edmonton on the periphery of the playoff situation. They'll be at Portland. San Jose is at San Diego. And on Friday, 1 match in the NASL. The Atlanta Chiefs, who moved that 1 game outside of DeKalb County, did rather well at the gate and on the field. Will be taking on the Calgary Boomers, 2nd in the Northwest, upcoming in the NASL. Also on Saturday, we'll take a look ahead on the North American Soccer League schedule and tell you that Montreal is visiting Jacksonville, Chicago at Tulsa. These teams have gone tooth and nail each time this year. San Diego and Vancouver, very possibly the match of the weekend in the league. Dallas is still out west visiting Portland. Seattle takes on San Jose. California, Surf, and Los Angeles. And Los Angeles, of course, the Aztecs with a better hope for the playoffs. While on Sunday, August 9, there are 4 games around the league. Atlanta and Washington. Tampa Bay taking on Fort Lauderdale. Remember, the Rowdies look good in the standings, but they have played so many matches they can be overtaken. This is the match the Strikers will have to do it in. Toronto meeting Minnesota. The Cosmos out in the Great Canadian Rockies to take on Edmonton. Tuesday, August 11th, Fort Lauderdale meeting Jacksonville. and Edmonton moving across to the province to take on Calgary. So that's a quick look at the schedule. We'd just like to pass along our congratulations to the Tulsa franchise in their 4th year of existence, over the 1 million total in home attendance, and certainly the Roughnecks in the thick of the playoff race right now, leading the wild card chase. We'll see you at this time next week as we'll review exactly what happens in the North American Soccer League on NASL Weekly. I'm Bob Lee. Have a very nice evening.